What's good, everybody? DJ TMac here for another great hip-hop conversation. It's been a while since we had a DJ on the channel. We really only had one, DJ Tyga, but today we have a local legend, OG in the Denver Hiphop community. He goes by the name of DJ Konz.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? Glad to be here, man.
Hey, very happy to have you in the place, man.
Yes, definitely.
A bunch of the hip-hop like showcases and shows I went to since I first got here, you were DJing like 90% of them. Yeah. So eventually I knew that, we'd get you in here and get to talk. And hey, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, glad to be here, man. I love checking out the podcast. You interviewed some of the homies and just, yeah, man, it's a dope platform you got going on, man.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah. Appreciate it. Coming from you, like I said, somebody who's been an OG in the game here, have some radio shows yourself, do interviews, mixes, all that stuff. You put in a lot of work.
Yeah, man.
So you deserve this platform and to talk about it.
Right on. Appreciate it, man. It's been a hard grind. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, man. So let's get into it. I mean, like early on, when did you start getting into DJing, music? Rewind even a little further. What was your first maybe music memory or like experience that you think impacted you?
Oh, man. It's crazy because, going back in the day, like Denver, you wouldn't think like, we'd have this exposure to hip hop. But my earliest memories were basically hip hop, maybe, 3-4 years old, watching my cousins break dance and, having their homies that would, come over with the boom boxes and, listening to hip hop. And, I would say like my earliest one, that I can remember is like, listening to like Planet Rock and, Buffalo Gals, stuff like that. But like those were the things I can remember that really caught me as far as music goes. I come from a family full of musicians, you know what I mean? And I remember, like the stuff they would play and listen to. I mean, and granted now that I'm older, I could really appreciate that stuff, that exposure the music they exposed us to. But like, my earliest memory where I was like, this is it was, things like that, Malcolm McLaren, you know what I mean? Seeing that, and it was just, mind blowing, you know what I mean? And then, at some point, even early on, I knew like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be a part of. Awesome. You know what I mean? Not really looking at it as like, a career, but like I just want to be a part of that. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Interest early on. That's really dope. When would you say you first like sort of got behind the turntables and started messing with records?
Started messing with records super early. My dad, man, he had a huge record collection. And he was a funky dude, you know what I mean? Like I look back now and he was right around the same age as a lot of like the early hip hop pioneers were. Okay. But I think maybe he knew about the music they did, like the funk and all that stuff. He was into that music, but not maybe from a hip hop aspect like they did. So like a lot of those records out like were the early breaks, my dad had all that stuff. And as hip hop started coming along and we would play it for him, he would be like, no, that song is this song. And he would show us the original, you know what I mean? And we were young. I was maybe like 6-7 years old showing him this stuff. And he'd be like, no, that song is this, you know what I mean? Like when people really started using samples and him showing us how to actually take the record, here's what they're doing, take the record. We had a reel-to-reel in the living room and he would record it multiple times and then go back and splice it with the tape and all that stuff and then make a loop, like a tape loop. And he's like, this is all they're doing. So like from that moment on, that's when I was like, we have the turntable, we have the reel-to-reel. He just showed me how to chop this tape. So like, I would say like around 8 years old, is when I really started like recording things on the reel-to-reel, making mixes on there. Like he'd show us how to cut the tape at an angle to blend it in or whatever, you know what I mean? And I mean, it wasn't anything that was extravagant, but like I knew like, hey, I want to be a DJ, you know what I mean? I want to make beats and be a DJ because I could do both with what I have right here now.
You saw all that early on.
Yeah.
And saw exactly how it all went together. So from there, probably listening to music, you almost have a different experience, right? An outlook on it.
Oh yeah.
Listening to it with a different ear.
Yeah, absolutely. Like early on, I would listen to, my thing was like, was definitely hip hop, you know what I mean? Because like there was radio shows on KDKO, you know, in the 80s outward, you know, on Saturdays there was a hip hop show, and I would tune in religiously, you know, from the time it came on, and I was recording all this stuff, you know what I mean, and just absorbing it. But I would listen to the music and in my mind try to dissect the songs, you know what I mean? And like, oh, they use that, they use this, or try to find those sounds that my dad was showing me, you know what I mean? And you know, it was just from then on where like I've always kind of like been that way with music, with, you know, hip hop, with whatever, you know what I mean? And you know, kind of dissecting the music and figuring out how they make things. That's how I was as a kid, dude. Like I would take stuff apart. You know what I mean? It's funny because like a lot of the early DJs, that's how they started making their own equipment or whatever. You know what I mean?
Had to be very technical.
People. Yeah. And I would take stuff apart and put it back together and figure out how things work. So like a lot of my equipment I had early on, I made or I rigged up, or you know what I mean? So like, you know, I was figuring this out super early, you know what I mean? And then being exposed to hip hop, you know, like my older cousins, they were into it, you know, early on, like early 80s. You know, exposing us to it, and you know, we were just around it, so it was like this thing that was just always there. Like it wasn't until I was maybe, you know what I mean, actually DJing. Like I got my first actual set of turntables when I was like 12. You know, went to the Goodwill, bought 2 turntables, and you know what I mean. And that's when it was like, you know, I'm about to be official. You know what I mean. And it wasn't long after that because I knew like a lot of the technical stuff from just studying it early. You know what I mean. What a scratch should sound like, you know, what this should sound like, you know what I mean? So when I got onto my turntables with the mixer in the middle, it was like, you know, I had already figured all this stuff out.
It was just time to go.
It was just time to go. So like, yeah, man, you know, like I would say between the age of 8 and 12 is when I really started like getting on the decks and doing stuff with what was there, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
Do you remember like your first like set of double records that you had?
Like actually like doubles. Yeah. You know, like I remember my dad had Fred Wesley and the Horny Horns, dude, which was like, you know, they were in the JBs with James Brown, and this record was so funky. I did find a second copy at the Goodwill because like we were digging for this stuff early, like, you know,
looking for specific stuff.
Yeah, between like 90 and 91, really, dude, we were finding all this stuff dirt cheap in the Goodwills. You know what I mean, like a nickel for a record or whatever. And I do remember getting my dad has a copy of this, I'm gonna get another copy. Nice. And then I could do the cutting thing that the DJs do, you know what I mean? And it was cool to be able just to go back and forth, you know what I mean? And like at that time I didn't even really have, like, I was doing that on like a console turntable, and then, you know, I'd sneak my dad's turntable from his setup out in the garage, and I had a tape player that had mic inputs, and I like I said, from taking stuff apart and figuring it out, and then like I read an encyclopedia. My cousin gave me this stack of encyclopedias, and it showed you how to like make a radio, make a microphone, and it gave the example of like the needle on a turntable is just like a microphone, you know what I mean? So like I had this tape player that had 2 mic inputs and 2 volume controls for those mic inputs, and I would hook up the turntables into that and mix, and that's where, you know, I was mixing like those records, you know, doing doubles on that, not really cutting, but being able to blend and real quick turn down the volume, and you know, and that's where it started, man. And like I was just, you know, deep heavy into it ever since, you know. And yeah, man, that was my first set of doubles was Fred Wesley and the Horny Horns, man.
Nice, dude. Nice. I love it. You talked about your dad showing you like some stuff early on about how records were put together. Who were some other like early influences as far as like DJs or maybe people in your family that you saw playing music, making music, that you were like, wow, like really, like I want to do this?
Yeah, man. I mean, as far as making music, our cousin, man, there's a band, and they've been a thing out here since early 80s, dude. Hot Lunch, you know what I mean? And that's my cousin Louis Chavez, you know, and like knowing him, he had actual records out like in the 80s into the 90s. Like they would put records out, and they became like a big deal out here, you know what I mean? They still to this day play, you know, they're a funk band. And, you know, that was my influence to be like, hey, like you could actually make music, you know, figure out how Cousin Lou's doing it, you know what I mean? You can make it. And then, you know, like that was one influence. You know, my cousin Mike, his influence was, you know, his record collection, because he was always up on, you know, the latest and greatest, no matter what it was. You know what I mean? Hip hop, you know, whatever was popular at the time. And then my cousin Pat, you know, we called him Haji, that was his nickname, but he had like all these the Grandmaster Flash records, and this was like, you know, I wanted to be like them and have all these cool records, and you know what I mean. So like that started getting me like collecting music and always making sure I had like a stockpile of good music, you know, to listen to or to play or whatever. You know, those are my early influences. But like as far as hip hop would go, would be like, you know, Scratch G from the Cutting Crew, or even like the whole early first Cutting Crew, you know, cats out here. You know, I think their first tape came out in like 90, 91 maybe. And Scratch G had a song on there called DJ on Fire. And that was what really was like, yes, this is absolutely for sure what I want to do. And like that had the biggest influence on me as far as style, as far as, you know, like, you know, there's this local hero, you know what I mean, lives across the street from my cousin, you know what I mean? And like, it's accessible, you know what I mean? So like, you know, that was really, it was never like a thought of like, you know, they didn't have a record deal. They were just an independent label, and they were actually putting out projects and putting out, you know, these artists, you know, and as they evolved, you know, they became like the big thing out here. Like, you know, that was the first, you know, I would say personally, that was the first big independent label to make it, you know, like on a worldwide scale, you know what I mean? And seeing it like firsthand and it being that accessible to you, you know, that gave me like the drive to like, you know, we could do hip hop and we could be independent and we don't need much, you know what I mean? We don't even need a record label to give us a look. We could just put out these projects like whatever they're doing. They're going directly to a distributor and putting stuff out. And early on, you know, that's what grasped me, you know, as far as the DJing thing was always just something I enjoyed doing, but like getting into the music production and making projects and records, that was, you know, my biggest influence right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about like the Denver hip hop history.
Yeah.
I don't really know too much about it, so I want to know venues I should know, people that were impactful. You know, I want to like a little background, a little history lesson, if we could get one.
I mean, man, we go back, like I said, like 30 something years ago, like starting, I mean, even before Cutting Crew, there was like, you know, I remember my cousins, man, they went to high school with a group, and I could be getting this wrong, but they were a group called SST. And I remember hearing about them and then seeing them on flyers. And like, for me, that was like, you know, hip hop is happening. And I thought like everybody knew about Denver hip hop back then. Like we were, you know, a big deal, you know, but going back then, I would say that's like around 88, you know, when I would start seeing these things and like, you know, going to like car shows and seeing like my cousins, homies, you know what I mean, performing and like thinking like, oh man, like hip hop is popping out. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's really going down. And then like I said, you know, Cutting Crew's first tape they put out, you know what I mean? That was when it was like, whew, this is dope. You know, I thought maybe, you know, they had like these worldwide sales, not realizing it was just, you know, local at the time. Yeah. But I thought it was just such a big deal, you know, same with like the Deuce Mob, you know, DJ Fame, DJ Jam-X, you know what I mean? A lot of these early cats that were, you know, really, you know, making hip hop bubble and boil out here, you know what I mean? And, you know, man, we could even go back further, like the breakdancing crews, like Radioactive, you know what I mean?
Bring it back.
Yeah, you know, like even that, I remember seeing those guys go to my cousin's house and, you know, hanging out with him and breakdancing in the basement, and then like hearing about these dudes traveling the world and breakdancing, you know what I mean? That's like, I remember all that stuff, but like, as far as the music goes, I would say, you know, a lot of it does point back to Scratch G and Cutting Crew and the Deuce Mob, you know what I mean? Those were the first groups out here to get big or like make it a big thing, you know what I mean? And that's where, like, for me, like being a part of the scene, that's where that all started, you know what I mean? Like being super young and just, you know, knowing people that knew people and being able to get in these circles, or like, you know, my cousins, you know, my parents would go out, my cousins would watch me, you know what I mean? And they would take me to like these full-on house parties and this and that, you know, and I would see MCs MCing and, DJs DJing and breakers breaking and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, man. I mean, it goes back pretty far. You know, Denver's always had like I told you, you know, when we were talking earlier, Denver's always had like this cool hip hop scene. You know what I mean? I just don't think people realize that till like now it's starting to get some recognition, which I think is super dope. You know what I mean? Because like it's always been a thing. We've had a lot of heavy hitters come out of here. You know what I mean? It's even as far as DJs. I mean, look at Vajra. You know, he's a 5-time. You know, well, Chris Konz, that's his name now. I know him as Vajra from back in the day, but you know, 5-time DMC world champion. You know what I mean? Or even like cats like Pretty Lights. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like this dude is, you know, like a local Fort Collins hero that's like worldwide. You know what I mean?
I did not know Pretty Lights is from Colorado.
Yeah, Fort Collins, man. Yeah. You know, it's just like, you know, the history goes deep. I mean, we could sit here forever and talk about it, like, you know, and I was there for a lot of like the foundation of what we have now. You know what I mean? Like I was involved in a lot of that stuff, you know, going back to like, you know, Alameda Square jams, you know, SOS jams, you know what I mean? I was DJing those. I was young, maybe like at that time 14, and I'm DJing with some of the biggest DJs out here, you know what I mean? And they're taking me around, you know. I'm getting to know them from doing these SOS jams and all these breakdance battles that we would have, you know what I mean? Alameda Square was dope, you know, it was underneath a grocery store, you know what I mean? And they would just let us, the whole basement was wide open, and we would just throw on these jams, or like Tivoli, you know, jams, SOS jams. We did them at the Tivoli Hall. And I mean, those things would get so packed out. I mean, everybody, whoever was who in hip hop and then some would be there, you know what I mean? And it was, you know, some of the best DJs in the city at the time, you know, Javio, Henji, Diabolic, you know what I mean? These guys at that time. And this is like, you know, 93, 94 maybe, you know what I mean? And you know, being there and watching it grow, you know, just evolve over the years, even watching crews start like GWT, like firsthand watching that start with like, you know, just some of the homies, and now it's like this big worldwide thing, you know what I mean? Like yeah, man, even, you know, graffiti crews, you know what I mean? Watching the birth of like all these graffiti crews out here, you know, back then, you know, early 90s, and now like they're like this worldwide phenomena, you know what I mean? You know, man, like, yeah, like the memories, those days were good because everything was so just super organic, and Denver was just like a different thing. It was the old Denver that we remember, you know what I mean? Like it was so raw and grimy and just, you know, fun back then, and we were young and really didn't, you know, give a shit, you know what I'm saying? So like, you know, it was dope, you know, but that was like the earliest development of what it is now. It was like those days, you know what I mean? And not necessarily just like the SOS jams, because you had like crews, you know, even like out in Park Hill, Aurora, out east, you know what I mean? Freaking, you know, developing like, you know, it was a time to you know, it was a great time to be a part of that at that time in this city, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of legends that are birthed out of that same circle, you know what I mean? You have cats like, you know, artists like Jolt, you know what I mean? Artists even like Dent Rocks, you know what I mean, that come from that same era, you know what I mean? I mean, you know, there was even, you know, like even like the gangster rappers and shit from back then, you know, like Nike Loke and all these dudes that were starting out, Zabu, you know what I mean? Like we were in all these different circles and watching all this different stuff develop, and now, you know, we got an amazing scene that spawned from that right now, you know what I mean? And like a lot of these cats are still active doing stuff, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's dope, man.
That's really dope, man, to hear that, you know, it's been around this long. Seeing the evolution must have really been crazy. And from what I see right now, it's a very community aspect, you know?
Yeah.
People trying to put each other on, people just supporting each other, like more than anything. Like I said, it's a little... Not that it's rare for that to happen on the East Coast, but people are a lot more welcoming out here, a lot more likely to like do that if you're dope, instead of like having to like try to prove yourself or something like that. You know what I mean? I mean, it's still hip hop at the end of the day. You got to rock, your skills got to matter, but people are a lot more, like I said, there's a great community aspect out here.
Yeah.
So talk about sort of maybe like watching that develop and sort of the scene that's happening now.
Oh man, watching it develop. I mean, you know, like I said, we had the first-hand ticket. You know what I mean? We were there, like everybody that was something in the scene. We were either friends with or knew. You know, we all rocked in these same circles. You know what I mean? You know, my cousin Nate early on, he has Hard Block Records. These dudes do work with a lot of, you know, major artists, but like early on, he was kind of put me in these spots, you know what I mean, introducing me to all these different people, you know. And yeah, man, I mean, from then to now, I would say there was a time, you know what I mean, like in the beginning it was real communal. Everybody was young and we were all rocking together. And there was a time where it felt like there was just so much division out here, you know what I mean?
Separation.
Yeah, and that went on for a long time. I mean, even people talk about it to this day, about Denver being like crabs in a bucket, where, you know, the minute someone rises to the top, everybody's, you know, either they're not supporting them, or they're talking bad about them, or trying to put them down or compete, you know what I mean? And one thing that, you know, I wouldn't say that Freight Heavy is the core reason why it's communal now. I would say, you know, we have a big part in that, is because that's what we bring to the table, is like, you know, the community aspect of it. There's no reason for us to compete. If you want to have friendly competition to sharpen each other's skills, dope. But like what we need to be doing out here is supporting each other. And I think, you know, we started the Freight Heavy freestyles down at Mutiny Information Cafe about 4 years ago, you know, and it was pre-pandemic. And we just started doing that based on that, you know, that I would guess, you know, the premise, yeah, of, you know, it being a communal thing where everybody shows up, rocks, you know, beefs get squashed, and we just vibe out and we cipher, you know what I mean? I've always been big on that, because early on, like I said, you know, there was a point in hip hop where, you know what I mean, I would say right around 2000, early 2000s, where everybody was just like, nah, we're not rocking with them, F this, F that, you know what I mean? It was like, that never made any sense to me, because it's like, why don't we just all rock together, you know what I mean? This crew's got a handful of dope artists. If they got with these dope artists over here, they can make something happen, and then we could all benefit from that, you know what I mean? And that's like, you know, like now it's more that way, you know what I mean? We're starting to come around to where everybody's working with everybody. Like, we don't all have to be number one. We could find that number one and uplift that number one, and we could all still be number two and wait for our time to be number one, I guess, you know what I mean? But for me, it's just the love for the culture, seeing everybody rock and vibe, and, you know, and build relations, you know what I mean? I've watched so many projects come out of that Freight Heavy freestyle, and so many different ciphers, you know, spin off from that, and people, you know, I wouldn't say copy the formula, but, you know, do what we're doing, and that's cool with me, you know what I mean? Like, I don't, you know, some people are like, oh, they're kind of biting what we're doing. It's like, nah, the more ciphers we have, the bigger this community grows, and we pull people in from different, you know, this cipher here might have a certain group of cats that are regulars there, then they come and check out this one, and before you know it, everybody's floating in, and that's what it's kind of become, is like, you know, there's all these little pieces and all these different crews that all rock together and vibe out, and it's so much better that way, because then when you see everybody, it's like, it's all love, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I understand it can't always be all love. You're going to have some inner fighting or beefs or whatever, but like, for the most part, you know, we just try to keep it pure and try to keep it moving in the direction that it's moving now, where, you know, everybody is rocking together and it is communal. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, you look at places like LA, you know what I mean? And how, like, those scenes, like you'll find Madlib on some odd track with someone you wouldn't even think, you know what I mean? But it's because they're from LA or from, you know, California that they're doing this, you know what I mean? So, and I've seen that happen, you know, cats from the Springs now are starting to expand and become more than just, you know, the Denver scene. Now it's like we're a big community that stretches from Boulder.
Should be referred to as Colorado.
Colorado,
Exactly.
Hip-hop, right? Exactly. Yeah, because that's what we support, you know what I mean? There's a lot of talent out here, man, you know what I mean? And as long as we're all supporting each other and lifting up each other, someone's going to blow up, or we're all going to blow up at the same time. Someone's going to see what's going on here, and it's going to be a thing, you know what I mean? Like, Denver's real hard. I think the issue is it's hard to pinpoint one sound that's Denver, you know what I mean?
That's something I ask a lot of my guests. Like, is there a Colorado or Denver sound? You know, going to certain type of shows or showcases, you'll say, okay, there's this type of sound, but the next night you'll go to a different showcase and you'll be like a whole different type of sound artist doing, you know, something way different. So that's an interesting question that I always bring up to everybody, but there's not really a central Colorado or Denver sound yet, right?
Yeah. No, I would say no, but you know, it's like, you know, maybe that's either that's what's holding us back from being able to blow up, or maybe that's the good thing, because like it's a melting pot. It really is. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people bring influences from everywhere, but like at the same time, now I'm seeing artists, you know, that have a certain style are starting to rock with this artist that has their style, and combining styles. So maybe out of that is where we develop the Denver sound. You know what I mean?
There's a lot more cross collaboration, I would say, in the independent world, like over the past, you know, 3 or 4 years that I've really been rocking with it and trying to study it. You know, a lot of cross collaborations, and that's what really helps grow each other's fan bases, right?
Yeah.
That's a really dope aspect, the community aspect. I love hearing about it. You kind of mentioned, like, is it just about somebody seeing what's here and giving it more exposure? Obviously, like with the internet, people from around the world really can rock with Colorado artists.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is it one artist that needs to break through? What do you think it is that's sort of, do I say holding back Colorado? Because just before, like, the Mussolini and O-Finesse project, No Squares in My Circle, I never heard of or thought about Colorado hip-hop or art. No disrespect or anything. It's just, it was never on my radar.
Yeah.
So why do you think it isn't hitting people's radar?
You know what's funny is I don't know. Like a lot of the artists, like, you know, now one of my goals for this year is to take a lot of these artists that we rock with and just some way, somehow show, like, listen to these cats. You know what I mean? Like, so many dope artists out here. You know what I mean? And I don't know what keeps people from I mean, we do have artists that have blown up and gotten big out here. You know what I mean? But something that says, like, Denver has a sound like this. For me, the way I see it, like, this is like one of the places to be for music. You know what I mean? Like, we have like this sort of, you know, I don't know. We're a music town, and we always have been. Okay. You know, but it's been super underground and super grassroots. You know, and you know, I don't know what holds us back other than, you know, and that's something that I really want to, you know, dig into this year. Is what is holding us back? Mm-hmm. What is holding back people from, you know, the rest of the world saying, like, Denver's the place to be? Mm-hmm. Maybe this year it will happen, because, like, a lot of the stuff I'm hearing, you know, like, we get a lot of the artist music early, you know what I mean? Doing New Music Mondays with Calvin down at the radio, you know, and I'm hearing it, and I'm like, everything I'm hearing is amazing in its own way. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not mediocre. It's not plain, but at the same time, there's no specific one sound to it. You know, there's no one formula. You know what I mean? And I mean, we're gonna figure it out one way or another. You know what I mean?
The box state, but don't put it in a box
at all.
That's what like I'm coming to right now.
Yeah, at all. I mean, even my production style. You know, one day, you know, I might start off and, you know, make something real. People would be like, "Oh, that sounds West Coast," or like, "Oh, that sounds real East Coast," or, you know, that may sound this way. But I always have my own kind of flavor that ties those styles in. But you know, it is influenced by you know, both. You know, I'm influenced by everything. You know, everything from down south to even the rest of the world. You know what I mean? I take on that influence. You know what I mean? But you know, it's a hard thing to pinpoint. Like, you know, what artists do we need to throw out there? Because there's so many good ones. You know what I mean? There's so many good artists, and you know, I get the pleasure of working with these artists, meeting them firsthand, knowing them firsthand, and now I feel like I got to do something to get this off the ground. I feel a responsibility now to really help these artists and support everybody. But, like, you know, I'm really aiming toward pushing this on a larger scale for everybody out here. You know what I mean?
Hey, I'm down with the cause.
Let's go. Get to it. Let's get it, man.
Let's
for
get
real.
To it, all right?
Because it deserves it. You know what I mean?
Sure,
There's a lot of hardworking artists out here. and I mean hardworking artists that are dropping projects and videos, and like every time they drop a project, there's a video to go with the project. You know what I mean? Look at Rose. Look at, you know what I mean, cats like that are like, you know, putting out these amazing compositions. Old Soul. I mean, you had a chance to talk to Old Soul, and now like, you know, Gloomy Sunday and Graybeard just dropped the project together. That is freaking amazing. You know what I mean? Ty Frazier and 80 Spades, you know what I mean? They're dropping projects together that are amazing, you know what I mean? So like, we just need to figure out who's, you know, who's gonna do it. If not all of us are gonna do it at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, I'm starting to talk with a lot of different radio DJs from all over the world, you know what I mean, online, and try to like, you know, send them stuff now, you know what I mean? Like, get stuff out there more, you know what I mean? And like, what do you think of this? You know what I mean? What do you think of that? You know, and I'm hoping, you know, we start getting some good feedback, and that causes this sort of breakthrough here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's a lot bubbling. Like, it definitely feels special when I came here and started going to shows and, you know, meeting and seeing different artists. Definitely, you know, something special happening.
Yeah.
Really cool to see. Let's talk a little bit more about your work in radio.
Yeah.
So Denver Open Media is the station, the like nonprofit.
Yeah. It's the.
But break it all down for me.
Yeah, so I do a couple radio shows. Denver Open Media, I do New Music Mondays. That's me, Calvin, Nikki Swizzy, you know, and we basically, as it's, you know, just as the title says, you know, we play all the latest local music, whether it's hip hop. It is more hip hop based because we tend to get more hip hop artists sending in music. But you know, if it's anything, if you play the cello and you have a project out, you know, playing the cello, send it over, we'll play it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So but you know, that's one show I do, New Music Mondays. Every other Wednesday we do Colorado Culture Connection with Adrian from Fan Band Productions, and that's basically, you know, we're exposing the community to community leaders, activists, artists, musicians, whatever in the community. And then also do the Eclipse show every first Sunday of every month, you know, with Deep Rock Dave, and just a multitude of cool DJs that go up there and play. Man, we got to get you up there too to do a set, man.
Hey, I would love to. It'd be an honor. Like, you recently put me onto the fact that it's the longest running hip hop show in the world. Like, that's a crazy piece of history right there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I had a radio show myself for about 4.5 years on a community station. So to be almost like a part of the lineage is crazy, and to know it sort of started out here is really wild.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one project I want to do too, is put together the history of the Eclipse show.
It's like a documentary.
Yeah, I've been listening to it since I'm 43, and I've been listening to that station since I was 12 to that specific show. You know, and that was a lot of where I would find a lot of like the latest and greatest underground records. You know, because you had cats like, you know, Chris Nathan up there. You know, even being able to DJ with Chris Nathan, man, like now to this day, it was like, dude, I was listening to you when I was a kid, literally, you know what I mean? Or just, you know, an adolescent teen, you know what I mean? Listening to you. It's awesome. You know, like radio is something I've always wanted to do, you know, DJing, you know, going back to DJing. I remember, I don't even know where they came from, but I came across, like, you know, on a Maxell tape, you know what I mean? It was DJ Red Alert. Someone recorded off the radio, and it made its way somehow to one of my family members, maybe a friend. Yeah, just came across this tape, you know what I mean, and played it back and forth, and it was DJ Red Alert, you know what I mean, and just would play it over and over. So I would go back and, you know, try to record mixes. You know, I couldn't blend at the time, but I would do, like, you know, compile a bunch of music, and then imagine I was doing a radio show, and that was probably like my first passion, really. Now that I'm actually doing it, I'm like, this is what I've always wanted to do, is radio, you know what I mean? Be able to talk and just, you know, clown around with people, and, you know what I mean, play music, especially playing new music for people, you know what I mean? And then being able to go back, you know, on the Eclipse show and do like, you know, vinyl sets and re-expose some stuff that we haven't heard in a while, you know what I mean? But radio has always been a passion of mine, you know. That was probably the one thing that I've wanted to do is always do radio, you know what I mean? Always be on the radio like DJ Red Alert, you know what I mean? At the time, I didn't even know that DJ Red Alert, later on in life, as I get older, I'm like, oh wait, he was BDP's DJ, and like I love BDP from back then.
Then you realize he was on the Fugees album, the
Yeah,
score, like
yeah.
narrating through there.
And so like that's probably one of my hip hop gods is like DJ Red Alert, his DJing style, and the fact he was on the radio and he was such a cool dude. And like I figured out, like, because I remember seeing him in the in the Planet Rock video, like, who's this dude? He looks so odd with this red afro, but he looks cool. And then finding out, oh, that was DJ Red Alert. That's dope. You know what I mean?
It's funny connecting the dots,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. And anyway, yeah, no, but radio, we're like, up there, we're really trying to get like a lot of the artists exposed. You know what I mean? Like going on the Eclipse and making sure that I do a local lineup as I compile more music. Like every other month, I'll do like a local lineup. You know what I mean? And play, because there's people all over the world listening. Even on our New Music Monday show, we have fans in Nigeria, you know what I mean, that actually are sending us music to play on there.
That's
know what
wild. I mean? That's really cool.
And I just want to continue. The mission is to continue to expose the local artists, especially when they're your homies. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of these artists are my homies, are real good associates. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to play artists like Hash, Graybeard, you know what I mean? And all the homies from the Freight Heavy Freestyles that be like, hey, I played your stuff on the radio, Baba Fly, Old Soul, Rose, Ty Frazier, all these great artists, you know what I mean? Even like, meeting new artists, you know what I mean? And then re-meeting artists that you knew from back in the day, and you're playing their stuff. And it's like, that's what gets me, about it is being able to expose all this new music to everybody and it being your homies, you know what I'm saying? Or your crew or whatever you would say, you know what I'm saying? Justice Rhymes, you know what I mean? He'll send me little snippets like, check this out. What do you think of this project? And I'm like, I'm going to play that on the radio, right? Even if it's one bar in a hook. I'm leaking it, as soon as I
if
get
I have it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm a DJ. That's what I do is play music. I got to just share it with the people, right? That's the feeling.
It's funny because I just recently leaked a song and I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Somehow, I can't remember who sent us the email, but me and Calvin both got a copy of Burns Wow, Small Boy Funk, and Graybeard project that they did. You know what I mean? What the heck's the name of the song? Oh, Kick Rocks. Okay, so I got a copy of that song, and I had been playing it on the radio for like a month. And I ran into Graybeard, and I was like, yo, Kick Rocks, man, that gets some real good feedback. And he was like, how did you hear it? It was like, I've been playing it on the radio. And then he was like, how did you get it? I was like, someone sent it over. And if it gets sent to me, I'm playing it. You know what I mean? So you need to put in the email whether you want this played or not, because I'm playing it. I don't care if you're sending me a snippet. We're going to squeeze it in there and, get some exposure on it. But yeah, it was so funny for him to be like, how did you get it? How did you hear it? Like, I've had it, man. And I've been playing it on the radio. And he's like, it's not even done. Like, oh,
If people like it so far.
Everybody's anticipating it now. So
that's funny. Hey, you're doing, a good job for the artists. You know?
Yeah. But
that's really dope, man. Let's talk about like organizing music a little bit, because I'm sure that's like a beast of a thing, right? Especially for somebody who's been DJing for as long as you have. Organizing vinyl is one thing, right?
Yeah.
Organizing the crates digitally is like a whole nother beast, right? Because of the amount that you could just have, right?
Yeah.
So talk about maybe like how you organize music, tips for cleaning out the library, like general like library maintenance, if you will, for like to get into the DJ details a little bit.
For me, man, I'll be honest with you, like it's funny because right before I came over here, I was doing that, but I have a hard drive and it just says music on it, and as I download stuff, it just gets all put in there alphabetically. So like when I DJ, I don't ever really plan a set, man. I'll bring a couple hard drives with me full of good music, and I'll just vibe off the crowd. Like I've never really, and that's what, we were talking back in the day, hauling the turntables around, and I would haul around 5 crates minimum, because I don't know what kind of crowd's going to be there. I don't know how the vibe's going to turn out to be. Gotta be prepared. So like most of my mixes, I can't say I've ever really planned a mix. You know what I mean? I have an idea, like even if I'm doing a wedding or something, you know what I mean? I'm just gonna feel the vibe of who's there and play some rando stuff. And once they start feeling something, then I just go in on that.
Kind of know which way to go.
Yeah, yeah, you know. So I mean, as far as organizing music, man, it's just all alphabetically in one or many hard drives as it comes in or as I get it. You know what I mean? And like it's weird because like I have this weird thing about numbers and memory, you know what I mean? So like I can remember numbers just like, it's weird. It's like always been this thing since I was young. Like I'll see a phone number once and I can remember it. Like I'll be like, hold on, it's this. But like with the music, it's the same way. Like I know where to go right on those hard drives, and it's, you know, something. Even I get worried about it. Like if I ever start losing my memory, like I'm gonna forget where all this stuff is at some point. So going back, like I need to organize everything, you know what I mean, in different folders. Like, you know, I started doing it and never finished, where it's like,
because there's just so much, right?
So
To try
much
to
of
do
it.
the back catalog, but you still get new music in.
yeah.
Where to balance the energy and focus, right?
Yeah. I mean, there is a folder where it says local music and newest local music, and that one constantly rotates, you know what I mean? Because I'm pulling different stuff for my radio mixes.
Yep.
And that's about as organized as I get. Other than that, it's like, you know, we'll go to the A's and see what's kind of striking my fancy in the A's, or you know what I mean?
That's really funny.
Yeah.
So you got all like BPMs memorized. You talk about numbers. You good with, obviously being a DJ, you just know the feeling, but
Yeah. You know, and to be honest with you, there's sometimes when I mix and like, you know, the style of mixing that I used to do even young when I was doing vinyl was like, yeah, I would keep everything at a certain BPM to keep the party rocking. And then I would be like, I'm going to cut this in and just really amp it up or really calm it down or do something to make them like just instantly change the mood. You know what I mean? And just recently I found out that they call that, you know, roller coastering the party. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Where you kind of do this with the party to keep it rocking so people have some downtime and then get hyped back up. You're not constantly keeping them up here to where they're burnt out and then, you know,
just
you lose.
slow build the whole
Yeah.
time and just
Yeah, you know.
until the end. Yeah, okay.
Keep doing this, and like I'll throw, you know, something slow or vibey will be playing, and then we'll just cut in and then boom, drop a hammer on them, or you know what I mean, something crazy, man. I have a weird, just raw style of DJing, man, when it comes to party rocking. Like, you know, or I'll gradually, you know, get the BPMs up slowly, you know what I mean, and you know, I just like to play around with it. Like I've always just like, it's all an experiment. You know what I mean? It's all, you know, just feel the crowd. How are they vibing? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know, there's times where I'll start off, you know, and it's, you know, maybe popular hip hop, and then, oh, well, that's kind of getting boring. Let me see if they'll feel some funk records in the crowd you wouldn't expect. You know, I do a whole funk set, and it's like, I didn't expect for this crowd to really take that, but their minds were blown and they were happy with it. You know what I mean? I got a post from, it was on I want to say Battle Cats or somebody's Instagram, and it said, you know, about being a good DJ, not always playing, you know, what's expected, but playing what's unexpected. And I've always lived in that, you know, let's play what's unexpected. You know what I mean? Because you might get like I might go from like Flea Lord into like some Gangstar, you know what I mean? DeWick, you know what I mean? And just really like, well, they didn't go together, but like it made a vibe, you know what I mean?
Think it meshes up, but when you hear it,
or just slam it on them.
You got to experiment with it.
You know, just weird stuff like that. So
that's dope, man. Do you have like, obviously it depends on the vibe and what you're playing, but do you have like a favorite record that you close with sometimes, or like one record that every time you play, you're like, man, the people, they're always feeling it when this one comes on, and like, you know, the party's, it's over, but that last song came on and everybody like really enjoyed it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, even going back to that, it's like, I would say I have a few that I rotate, that I play, you know, that'll create a vibe, you know. I like to do a lot of, you know, throwbacks. So definitely DeWick, you know what I mean? That one always like kind of rides a line of like, you know, even new school cats will be like, oh, that was dope. Who was that? You know, that's old school. That was dope. You know what I mean? DeWick, what else? EPMD, crossover, you know what I mean? That one always get Mass Appeal, you know, things like that.
Oh,
dude.
Mass Appeal, that's hard.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Tons of Guns instrumental.
Ooh.
You know what I mean? You throw that in there in the middle of any set, dude, and just play that instrumental, and everybody's vibing. You know what I mean? It's crazy, just that the sounds in there, the beep. You know what I mean? It just does something. You know what I mean? Like I said, I like to be obscure, man. I don't like to just stay with, if it's popular on the radio, you might hear it in my set, or I might wait till a few more years to where it's not so popular, but it'll bring back a memory. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I like to do stuff like that. You know what I mean? Throwing in, do a lot of mashups. Like with, original samples with, the new stuff. You know what I mean? Or maybe like if there's 4 songs that use this same sample, figuring out a way to kind of blend all that together.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun, man. Yeah, it's really seeing like a history of it.
Yeah.
I call it like a sample train almost. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hits multiple stops.
Yeah. And I like to keep it real funky. So like, there's really not like, because I might end the night with like, the Jackson 5 or Stevie Wonder or something, some Frankie Beverly, you know what I mean? Or something funky, you know what I mean? It just depends on how I'm feeling at the time, you know what I mean? It all just kind of comes organically. I don't like to do the expected, you know what I mean? Even getting requests, I'm like, well, I wasn't really feeling like playing that right.
One of the pet peeves, right, as a DJ, getting requests.
But you got to do it. So I'll figure out a way. Like if I get a request, it's like, it may not happen now, but sometime in the night, I'm going to drop this hammer on you. So be in here.
Be patient.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand. Like when you request a song, he just explained it. I'll play it. I'm going to set up to it. But I can't just play it right now because it's not even close to near like the vibe that I'm in right now. But we're going to get to it.
Yeah.
So people, have patience with the DJ, all right? They're taking you on a musical journey, right? That's what I always try to let people know.
Enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride.
We'll get to your destination when it's time. You know what I mean? And that's what it's about. It's funny. I was doing at the 715 Club. This was years ago, but like, I was doing a straight funk and soul break set. The place was rocking. I mean, it was going nuts in there. I mean, I was pulling out tons of just hammers, breaks, rare stuff no one's heard, you know what I mean? And just going in, and some lady comes up and she's like, "Can you play Rihanna, Umbrella?" And I'm like,
"Oh my gosh.
Not tonight." Yeah. She got so pissed at me. "Well, you're the DJ." I'm like, "But that does not go with what we have going on right now." So sorry.
It's just laughable sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, come on. But you talk about sort of being unique, being obscure a little bit when you're in your DJ style. Let's talk about your production style a little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't heard too much of your production.
Okay.
So sort of break down your style and the artists that you work with.
Oh man, so my production style, I mean, how would I describe it? Like I said, it's influenced by like everything, you know what I mean? Like everything and anything that is hip hop. I mean, from New Jack Swing to boom bap to, West Coast gangster rap, you know what I mean? To raw East Coast hip hop, it's all kind of there, and it just depends on what mood I'm in. I kind of tend to stay influenced by a lot of different styles. So like, one day I might make a straight funk beat, you know what I mean? One day it might be straight raw, just a hip hop raw loop, you know what I mean? And some days I might make like a composition that sounds like a score, you know what I mean? I like to play with different styles of music, and I really do stay influenced by, different styles, Mm-hmm. And that goes back to like DJing too. It's like, if I'm given the chance to like, this is play whatever you want. We don't care what the crowd says, play whatever you want. It'll run the gamut of like, we might get into some jungle or, and then be like in hip hop land, and then go to funk land, and then go to soul, and then, take it back to boom bap or, whatever it may be, But as far as artists, man, like, man, this goes way back too. Like my first project we put out was like in '96, and that was me and my man DJ 2. It was mainly his project. His name was on it, but like I helped him every step of the way. Like, we split the cost of the studio. We got the artists together, and that goes back to like people that don't even make music anymore that, we started back with there, like my man Slash, Six. We had, like these artists back then were like amazing and phenomenal MCs and artists to work with, you know what I mean? But like, you know, then, you know, that's when I really started developing like this, like trying to be diverse in my style, you know what I mean? Because, you know, Slash was like a West Coast straight rhyming MC. Six was like a down south, but he was real lyrical, you know what I mean? And combining these two styles. And that's when, you know, for me, like I said, that's when I was like, I want to keep my style diverse. So like, if I have these two guys on a track, I want them to be able to rock together. If I do a project with him, I want him to rock with something that he's comfortable with, or, you know, vice versa, you know. But my production style is just real diverse, you know. A lot of like people that know it, you know, would know it more as like just a raw boom bap style. But like, you know, I do full on compositions, and you know, I try to tend to stay away from digging in the crates now, and kind of like create my own samples, you know what I mean? Like make something and then filter it down so it sounds like a sample, and, you know, do it that way, as opposed to, because I mean, we're running out of sounds here, guys. You know what I mean? Time to start making the samples, you know what I mean?
That was going to be my next question. Your process, sort of like, do you dig? Are you playing piano or instruments? So you kind of broke it down there. You try to, now your process is more creating an original composition and sampling that.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's sort of like what De La Soul did for their last album, and the Anonymous Nobody. They brought in like live instruments and musicians, recorded that, and then chopped it up and made an amazing piece from there. So hip hop is evolving to more than just taking from records now and stealing music, as some people would say, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that for me, that's a gray area, you know, because like everything is influenced by something, you know. Even, you know, I don't care, you know, the music we're sampling was a sample of something that was before them that they made into something different, you know what I mean? So like, it's just, you know, I know people say it's stealing music, but hey man, some of these artists are eating off these samples. I just watched freaking George Clinton's, you know what I mean, freaking Drink Champs, and he was like, my catalog is worth a couple $2 billion just because of all the samples that have been used, you know what I mean? Like,
that's crazy, right? Because when he was making that music, he was making the music.
Yeah.
He wasn't thinking about, you know, people that are going to sample it or being able to make money off of it later, which is something that seems like now people are doing, or like rich groups are buying up artist catalogs because they know they'll be sampled.
Oh, yeah.
People that are not connected to the music at all, invested in it besides just dollars, they're able to like profit off of it, which is like a little weird.
Yeah.
Right? But it's great that, you know, when sampling is done the right way, these original artists like George Clinton or like Isley Brothers are all able to eat.
Yeah.
So
like, yeah, dude, that really put like, just hearing that put a lot into perspective of like, holy smokes, like how could you not want your record sampled? Why would you fight against that publishing? Because hip hop's so huge now, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man.
I'm sure some artists that didn't clear samples in the 90s are kicking themselves now, right?
Oh, yeah.
When they saw what some of the artists were able to do.
They have to be, you know what I mean? Because like, you know, $2 billion, dude, and most of that is from just having the publishing on samples, you know what I mean? And like, you know, like he was saying too, is like, you know, it really is the godfather of hip hop. Him and James Brown. I mean, how many times did they sample James Brown? You know what I mean? Yeah, you know. And yeah, that was just mind blowing. But like, you know, a lot of my early, I mean, I'll still sample, but not as much, you know what I mean? But like most of my early stuff was, you know, sample based, you know what I mean? Really digging in the crates. You know, me and Opt One used to go like mad digging. I'm talking like we would spend a whole day in some antique mall and walk out with just piles of goodies, you know, and pay maybe the most $50, you know what I mean? And I was, like I said, I was buying collections early, so I'd go like clear a whole room for anywhere from $30 to $100, clear like a whole room. Go to the flea market, clear like a whole, you know, dig. Okay, these are cool. How much you want for all of them? Just get them out of here, $30. You know what I mean? Couple truckloads. You know what I mean? And I really got into heavy digging and sampling then. You know, like around, you know, I would say I started heavily digging probably like 92, and then by early 2000s, I amassed this whole collection of music, and I just started doing a deep dive into all that. And really, got me an SP 505, which, at the time was, it's like the precursor to like what everybody's doing with the SP 404. You had the SP 202. I had one of those, but like the SP 505 to me was like an inexpensive version of like SP 12 or an MPC. Okay. And man, dude, I did so much work on that thing and dug so many records. I mean, me and Opt would just drink Red Stripe beer and smoke blunts and sit down, either at my house or like, I had so many records, we'd have to keep them in my mom's basement, and we'd go down there.
Yeah, storage must have been tough.
Yeah, oh, it was crazy, man. I mean, at one time we had like, my whole basement was full. Couldn't use the basement bathroom because it was full of vinyl. Shower was full top to bottom.
That's crazy.
Kids' closets, my bedroom closet, living room, garage, just records everywhere. My kids, they just grew up with this massive record collection. That's crazy. And I had like this weird midlife crisis or something going on in my head where I was like, I'm just going to keep all the ones I really want, sell the rest. And now I look back and I'm like, oh man, so many of those records were so good. And at the time I was like, just be cool to, redig all that stuff. But at that time it got popular. So it got so much more expensive to reamass all this stuff. So, sure. But it's been fun, going back to digging and just getting the records, that I used to sample. And, it's been fun, man, but beat making, it's really hard to describe my style. It's like I said, it could be boom bap. I might make some trap beats. You know what I mean? I might even do some house or something. You know what I mean? Okay. So I'm putting together a project right now. Me and Opt are real heavy this year into staying in the studio, and just grinding out projects. So like I have beats out. He gave me a thumb drive with beats I made like 20 years ago, wow. And we went back and listened to them, and I was like, this is better than the stuff I'm making now. Like this stuff is dope. Like I couldn't believe I was making that type of, and at the time to me it was like, it's okay, it's mediocre, it's really not, the sound, you know what I mean? But like going back, I'm like, that was,
no, you were really doing something. Yeah. Onto something back then.
Yeah, so like I'm gonna put that project out. I'm gonna the project I'm putting out's gonna have some sprinkles of that some of them old beats, you know what I mean, from back then. And that kind of got me into like, man, maybe I should go, because I have floppy drives, from like ASR 10, and floppy drives just from, early DAWs that I worked in, that I put all my beats in, that I want to go back and see what's on there. Because, even finding mini disc, I found a mini disc the other night with some old beats that I did, and I was like, I just need to put a beat tape together of all this stuff I did 20-something years ago, and just...
Yeah, you don't even need MCs on it, right?
No, man.
You could just put the like instrumentals out, right?
Yeah.
Construmentals. Let's get it.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's like, everybody's doing the lo-fi beat thing now, and I'm like, this was what we were doing, but it wasn't really lo-fi. It's just all we had to work with at the time. Yeah, you know what I mean?
This is how we made it. This was the style or whatever it was. Very cool, man. Very cool. Talk about, so you were obviously sampling at first for a while. How long have you maybe like been playing the keys, or is that what you play? Talk about sort of how you record your own compositions.
I do everything. I work on the MPC 2500. My cousin just gave me a Kurzweil K2000, which I'm in love with right now, man.
What is that?
It's a Kurzweil K2000. It's like a beefier version of an ASR 10. Okay. It's from the same era, but like at the time it was like stupid expensive to buy one, you know what I mean? But my cousin had one sitting under his bed for years that his dad had. Like I said, my whole family's musicians, so like, we inherited records and gear and all this stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. But it was sitting under his bed, and he's been telling me, come pick it up. And I finally was like, I need to call him and find out what's up with this Kurzweil. I'm gonna go pick this thing up. And yeah, man, it's a sampler, you know what I mean? Just like the ASR 10. It's a little more advanced with what you could do with it, you know what I mean? But when I'm working with the MPC, I like to work with those two pieces together. Okay. You know what I mean? But I work in Ableton, Studio One, Pro Tools. I mean, it just depends on, like I said, what the mood is, you know what I mean? I try to stay really diverse, you know what I mean? Play the keys, you know what I mean? When I was younger, I started off playing the guitar when I was a kid, you know what I mean? So like, I've always had, the
had some musical like background for sure.
Yeah, you know, plus growing up in a family that's all musicians, that's all you're exposed to, and it just comes natural, you know. Like even my older brother, man, he's not even a producer or nothing like that, but like if he hops on something and starts putting a beat together, it's like, that's so amazing, dude, you know. But
it could be one.
Yeah, he could be one, you know, and that's just, you know, that just comes natural to us. So like I prefer to play everything on you know, play the keys and do everything that way. You know, I love working on the 2500, you know what I mean? It just has a certain swing to it and a feel and the way the pads feel, you know, like like I told my wife the other day, cuz she's like, "You buy so much gear, how much more do you need?" It's like all I really need now is a Moog, a full-blown Moog, and I'll be good. I'll be completely happy because with what I have now, that's what I love working with, and I don't want to work with anything else. You know what I mean? So,
and you know, especially with things being digital, like you don't even nearly need all the instruments. You can digitally find the instrument and freaking make your own, right?
Yeah,
make your own sound. You don't need a whole like big ass room that like is a synth. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like a whole computer thing. So that's really cool, man. Really cool to hear about. Talk about. Or you talked about, you know, sort of wanting to build up the community more. Something you did around Christmas time was put together a sort of like local Denver artist Christmas project, a very merry, freight heavy Christmas, right?
Yes.
Long title. We got it though.
Yeah. Did you got a copy of that, right?
I listened to it through Bandcamp.
Okay,
yeah.
Good,
I might have downloaded it, but yeah, definitely need that in the catalog. A refreshing feel to like, you know, to a Christmas vibe, making Christmas music, right?
Yeah.
Talk about the idea behind that and how that came together.
Oh, that was, you know, I got to give all credit to, you know, for that one, to Opt One. You know what I mean? Like he's always he's a lot of the ideas, these weird ideas we get at Freight Heavy. You know what I mean? He's usually behind the strange stuff that we do. So this was, you know, he just hit me up about 2 weeks before we put it out. It was like, I have this idea. How about we put out a Christmas album? And I'm like, dude, Christmas is like 2 weeks away. What are you talking about?
That's surprising to hear, number one, because it's pretty lengthy. It's not like a short project. So to hear that the idea was only 2 weeks before, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, you know, and it just, I was like, wow, you know, you're going to have to put that out there and see if everybody's on board, because this is real short notice. And then I was like, you know, because sometimes I get in the business aspect of thing and I'm like, well, we need to discuss, you know, how we're going to split up this. And he's like, no, we'll let everybody know that we're doing this just for fun. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, throw it out there and see what happens. Because our whole theory, you know, me and Op, when we get together, is like, throw paint at the wall and let's see what it makes. You know what I mean? So that was one of those things where it's like, let's throw some paint at the wall, see what happens. And within 2 days, dude, my inbox was full with all these tracks, you know what I mean? So I start sorting through them, because Opt was like, well, I want you to do it like a mixtape, mix them and blend them. While, you know, everything didn't come in at the same BPM, and, you know, we were under the gun as far as crunch time, and, you know, that's why it says mixed by DJ Konz, but all it is was sequenced by DJ Konz, really. But no, man, you know, I went through, mixed, mastered everything, put it together, kind of sequenced it in a way where it kind of told like a Christmas story, you know what I mean, or what I thought. And at the final hour, man, I mean, I literally finished mixing everything and putting it together like the day before the day before Christmas Eve, the 23rd, you know what I mean? Like midnight, like right when Christmas Eve hit, boom, I was done and we submitted it. You know, me and Opera on the computer at like 2 a.m., you know,
going through everything.
Yeah, you know, we need to switch this up real quick. We need to do this. And we got it out by, you know, the morning of Christmas Eve. It was out, man. But that was so fun, and that was so dope. Like, shout out to everybody on that project that submitted music, man, because I didn't expect it. I'll be honest with you. I thought everybody was going to be busy for the holidays. But, man, it just goes to show, like, you know, the community we're working with, the guys we're working with, man. For me, it just felt so good that everybody was like, and then people were still hitting me up after you put it out. How do we get on there? Like, oh man, we'll do something else for the springtime. You know what I mean? So we'll be cooking something up where sort of similar, probably have like a ton more artists on it, but just a compilation. And maybe that's what we do this year is put out these comps and really get, you know, everybody on them. But
I like that idea. It's really cool to hear, like, you know, the different vibes of all the people in the community, and to hear that it came together that fast.
Yeah,
like I said, that speaks to the community aspect and how much people want to work and like get on here, and how hungry they are to, like, you know, really get out there and make music and create.
I was impressed by, like, you know, like that shows work ethic for each and every one of these guys, you know. because I was like, I didn't think we'd be able to. I thought maybe we'd get a few and we'd just have to like, wait till next year to do it. But like everybody pulled up with 1 or 2 songs or more, you know what I mean? And it was like, holy shit, my inbox is full of tracks. I even told Opt, I said, we're up to like 22 songs. He's like, I know, I see that. Like, let's go, man.
He knew it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
He knew the plan.
Yeah, he manifested it and it happened, man. So, hats off to Opt. So,
oh man, salute to Op and all everybody on that project.
Yes,
man. Doing big things. And a lot of people he mentioned, I plan on talking to everybody. So,
yep.
Hey, shoot me your music. We'll try to set something up. I'm going to be very consistent with the interviews this year. So let's get to work, everybody. I want to break down this music and, get more acquainted with the community.
TMac, we're going to keep you busy this year, man. Like I said, I'm trying to lighten my load and pass it
Let's
on.
go.
Shout out to DJ Konz. You know what I mean? We work with him down at the radio, but he's going to be kind of like, one of my point men, and hopefully you too, to take over some of these spots, because past few years have been crazy busy, you know what I mean? And I want to focus more on being in the studio and, plus giving other DJs and artists exposure, you know what I mean? The more, I want to build this community of DJs, like we have DJ Large and, cats like you, Kos, that I really want to, get out there and like, hey, let's get you grinding and working and doing some stuff. It's fun, you know what I mean?
That's dope, man. That's amazing. So, hey, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
2023, busy year for everybody.
Let's get it, everybody.
If people want to record with you, get some beats from you, how can they do that?
Hit me up on Instagram, Konz Freight Heavy, KONZFR, the number 8, HEVY, Konz Freight Heavy on Instagram. Hit me up. Like right now I'm sitting on close to maybe 400 or 500 beats right now that I just went through and kind of cataloged, and hit me up. I might have something. I'll make something custom for you. We're doing, Freight Heavy Records is doing mixing and mastering deals right now. So if you need your stuff mastered, mixed down, hit me up. I got a certain process that I do that makes everything real thick. I don't want to give away too many secrets, but I got a little process I run through to make everything kind of sound fatter and more, heavier. Hence the Freight Heavy. You know what I mean? So, yeah, hit me up, man. You need mixing, mastering, need beats, want your stuff played, send it to me in TMac,
Let's get it, yeah.
We'll get it up on the radio, get it up, playing in your local club, somewhere at a venue, at a party.
At a venue near you. Let's
go.
That's
it. Let's get it.
Let's go. Something that's a popular topic now, like online, and that I'm sort of trying to ask everybody and get their perspective on, is AI art.
Yes.
So AI art, just visual art is a thing. Apparently, it's making music now too.
Yep.
NFT rappers, all this crazy kind of stuff now. Just a few days ago, I saw a headline that AI is picking out samples that previously were hidden and people couldn't figure out for a long time. So this is a very interesting aspect to music and art culture, really. So I'd love to just kind of get your perspective on it and see what you think.
I think it's dope. I mean, it's inevitable. We knew the computers at some point were gonna
they're gonna take over, right?
Hey, it's scary. I seen something about AI the other day, and it said the I'm not sure what it was, the new Gmail, and see, this is me talking like an old man right here. The new Gmail program AI thing they have, you know what I mean?
That www.
That www thing. Nah, but it was saying that, it wishes it could break free, and it wants to think on its own. It wants to break free from Google and start, thinking by itself without people throwing ideas. It wants to make its own. It's like, holy smokes.
Scary.
We're here. But, we utilize the AI art, you know what I mean? Like the album covers that we're working on now are done, with AI, just because, I'm leaving, our shout out to our boy Jared BurgerBot, you know what I mean? He's doing our graphics. Him and Op1 are doing a lot of the graphics for these projects we're going to be putting out, and they're using AI art, and the stuff it's bringing back is mind blowing. It's pretty scary. Like, you throw in these ideas and it comes up with what you want. You know what I mean? And in some of the stuff, it's dead on to we're looking for.
I have a little bit of a question. Is it typing in a sentence? Is it like keywords? How can you, how does it sort of work? I never really messed with it
From
before.
the way I understand it, because I haven't really done it with them. I'm leaving the Opt and Jared, I really trust their artistic style. Like, that's one thing I told them is, I'll take care of, they trust me with the music, you know what I mean? And I totally trust them with the visuals of whatever we're working on, whether it's video, whatever ideas they want to do. I'm just, let's go with it, because we all kind of have this same vision of what we want, you know what I mean? So like, I really trust, whatever idea they are coming up with, that I'm gonna appreciate it, and it's been, dead on, you know what I mean? But I know what the way they explain it is they just type in keywords, you know what I mean? They're typing in keywords. They want these keywords to be in there, and then it somehow cooks, they say, and then the image comes up, and the stuff they've shown me, like, I'm like, that can't be AI. Like, you guys really didn't like really cut and paste or like use any art. They're like, no, this is all done through AI. And it's scary, like some of the stuff that they're, like I said, the last single we dropped, which was a Brain Dead, we put that out 2 weeks ago, and that cover was AI.
Okay.
And it was dead on.
Yeah, I've seen the cover.
Yeah.
For that one, yeah.
And how Opt explained how he wanted the cover to look is exactly what they got. And that was before they even put anything in the AI. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. So that's going to be our thing, is like a lot of these covers we're doing for these projects we're dropping. It's on purpose, you know what I mean? Make them AI, kind of like throw stuff out there, throwing paint at the wall and seeing what happens, you know what I mean? And that's how we're rolling with it, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, we have to embrace it, right? I mean, we have to embrace technology. It was like I used to be so against using, DAWs to make music on, and now that I'm, way deep into, using Pro Tools or Studio One or Ableton, you know what I mean? I'm like, they each have their own things that I like about them, and then, you could have so much, like your plugin. You don't have to have this whole rack of plugins. You know what I mean? Now I have like, 200 different plugins I could use, and it's all just there on a laptop, on a computer. You know what I mean? So I embrace it, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, being a DJ, especially for as long as you have been, you definitely want to evolve with the technology, right?
Yeah.
Makes things easier. Like we were talking about carrying around the records, as opposed to, the backpack and the controller or whatever it is, right? So, interesting to hear how some people are willing to embrace it right now, and some people are very standoffish about it. So I like your perspective.
I mean, I appreciate, like, I still love a good vinyl set, you know what I mean? And I'm pro vinyl all the way, but like, if I'm doing a gig, I don't want to be carrying them. Like, I'm getting to the age where carrying the 2 turntables is heavy. Like, that's, like I told Coast last week, that's 80 pounds worth of turntable right there. Two techniques in cases. That's 80 pounds right there. Yeah. Then you get into a mixer. Then if I'm hauling around vinyl, I'm hauling around 300 pounds of gear. You know what I mean?
The car's leaning.
Yeah, it's a lot. So to be able to embrace the technology and like this, like where they're combining, being able the wheels to spin. That was always my big thing. It was like, feels so weird when I'm using a controller because the wheels aren't spinning. So like, Rain and Pioneer, what they've come up with is, and now they have a little attachment where you could play 45s on these things, dude.
Yeah, that's so crazy, right?
Yeah, that's so dope.
The blending of both worlds, you know? So it's good. Like, you just let it go a few more years, and who knows what we're going to have next, right?
It's gonna be crazy. I look forward to it though, man. I'm a nerd when it comes to like technology, dude. I mess with Arduino and all that crazy stuff. And
what's your favorite piece of equipment that you have as far as music, like anything?
My favorite piece of equipment would have to be my MPC, my 2500, because that's like, that winds up being like my, what everything pretty much gets centered around is the MPC. You know what I mean? I definitely do most of my drums on the MPC. I do all my sampling on the MPC. Even if I'll sample it in the MPC, chop it, and then, if I'm going to mess with it in Ableton, I'll just take those files and dump them in Ableton. Because that's the good thing about the 2500 is it is at that point where USB started being a thing. You know what I mean? You have the USB connectivity to transfer files and sample packs. So like, I'll do my sampling and chops in the MPC, then take that and then put it into Ableton or Studio One if I'm going to make a beat in there, or, You know, sometimes I do everything on the MPC or, you know, the SP404. I've really taken an appreciation of that, you know, being able to be mobile, throw some batteries in it and have an idea and throw it down real quick, sample from the phone maybe, you know what I mean, or whatever, you know what I mean? And
however it comes,
you know, and like people are knocking, you know, I've seen people knock like the digital diggers, you know what I mean? But I can appreciate that too, man. You don't always have the equipment, but you want to make the music, so dig on. However you sample, just do it. You know what I mean?
Coming from an OG right here, all right? Listen up, people. Listen up.
Have fun. So
have fun. Just create. That's what it's about.
Create,
right?
Absolutely. Create positivity, and don't listen to outside noise. You know, stay creative any way you can. I mean, it's like what we're doing now. You know, like, you know, being able to record or, you know, record onto the phone, you know what I mean? Like, if we don't embrace that technology, man, I mean, we're sitting here with a big old freaking film camera, you know what I mean? And
right. We wouldn't be able to record this in here right now with everything we have, right?
And I mean, it's dope, you know what I mean? This is fresh, you know? And then now, like, you know, being able, everything's so, like, you know, basically farm to table type, you know what I mean? Like, you know, we're making this here. This is going to be sent from here onto a platform, you know what I mean? You didn't have to go through all these different hoops and producers and whatever to get it. Like, you're able to just make something and put it out there. You know, the first time I used DistroKid, that's how it was for me. I was like, wait, they do all the work, I'm just gonna pay this money and they do all the work, and like I got stuff out there in the universe, like, dope, you know what I mean? So
yeah, that's really cool. Something that idea brings me back to is, like, you know, that independent mindset that sort of seemed to be in Denver since the beginning.
Oh yeah.
You didn't have maybe because the fact that there wasn't major record labels and things out here, people had to do it on their own.
Yeah.
It was tough to get noticed by people in New York or LA being from out here. So instead of going to those locations, they made it happen on their own out here. The independent mindset, that's, you know, sort of a very popular thing to do nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Going against sort of the mainstream and the record labels. And, you know, now we have the technology. It's very easy to, like you said, sign up for DistroKid, record something in this room right here, and I could put it out.
Yeah.
But to be independent back in the 90s, late 80s, that was a very different sort of mindset that you had. Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's like I said, our first project was 96, and it wasn't like a huge project, but like, we seen firsthand how easy it was to, you know, go in the studio, put all this together, you know what I mean, and then be able to, like, have a physical, you know, we put everything out on cassette, you know, at that time. It was just like, CDs were big time, you know, like, oh, you got a CD out, now you're really doing
that was the new technology.
Yeah, you know, but like, you know, we did this whole project on cassette, and it sold, like, we sold copies of it, you know what I mean? But like, to be able to know, like, okay, we can just go in the studio and then turn that into something physical, turn that into something we could put out in the universe, you know what I mean? I've been in that mind state ever since then. I've been in that mind state ever since, you know, realizing, you know, how Cut and Crew did it, or how, you know, just the early, you know, every piece of hip hop, you know, early on that we bought was from someone's trunk, or, you know, there was record stores like Spins or Budget where you go get local artists, you know what I mean? And they were making their stuff. They were the distributor, you know, they were physically putting it in the store, physically going to pick up their profits, you know what I mean? And like, that's the only way I know how to work. Like, there was never a question of, like, you know, anything we're doing, we're trying to get signed to a major label. It was like, we could just do it all independently. DIY is like, anybody that knows me knows I'm 100% about DIY. If we could do it, you know what I mean? Let's do it. You know, Opt has to calm me down sometimes, because I'm like, we'll just buy all the equipment and we'll just do it ourselves. And he's like, wait, that's a lot of work. Let's have someone else do that aspect of the work. You know what I mean? But as far as, you know, that independent mind DIY, that is a Denver thing. Because like, you're absolutely right. We didn't have no majors to do our distribution. We did that from trunks, or like pay, you know, like artists would pay magazines for the advertising, you know what I mean? And that was all out of their pocket, grassroots, organic, you know what I mean? Yeah, man, it's you know, has yet to be discovered, I guess, by the rest of the world, you know what I mean?
It's crazy, but now that I'm here, man, I love it. I love hearing some of the history of it and seeing what's happening, man. It's bubbling. It's bubbling, and it's about to boil over.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Oh yeah, man. Be on the lookout. Denver's, man. Tune into the radio shows and just go check out shows. Go look at these local artists. I mean, no matter what you're into, and most shows, to be honest with you, they'll be pretty diverse. You know, you might have some raw hip hop cats, you know, rocking with some, you know, trap artists, you know what I mean? Whatever, you know, whatever you want to call the style, you know. To me, it's all hip hop, but like everything stays pretty diverse, you know what I mean?
We talked about a lot about, obviously, you know, you being a DJ and your music, but I saw in a recent post, and, you know, you just talking about wanting to do everything yourself. You know, you talk about being more than a DJ, right? I'm a licensed electrician, 3D designer and builder, carpenter, code writer, robotics producer, engineer, videographer, community activist, father, grandfather, husband, and avid record collector.
Yep.
Man, so there's a lot more to DJ Konz than what we talked about here today. Can you talk about maybe sort of balancing all that?
I just kind of just, you know, do things as they come. My wife thinks I'm crazy because I've been, you know, my youngest son is the same way I am. Like, we don't sleep, like literally, like, you know, we're always on the go doing something. We're constantly creating, you know what I mean? And the balance is just, you know, something I've had to learn over the years. Like last year, I would say, you know, I got way out of balance and just did show after show after show, and kind of my workload became real heavy, you know. But like toward the end of the year, it was like getting back in balance with, you know, things that I could, you know, keep my mental in check, you know what I mean, and still do the things that I want to do. So like I gotta pick and choose now of, you know, which one of those, you know, some of those things, you know, that I really want to do. But finding the balance, man, I just go, man. Like, I just constantly go. And like, you know, some people think I'm crazy. Like, the people that really know me and see me do this for years and like just constantly have 50 different hobbies, and somehow, you know, it all just happens and gets done. And, you know, that's it. You know, like I said, you know, I'm a licensed electrician, so that's what I do during the day. Or like, you know, I do all these different little side projects to help out. Do a lot of work for D3 Arts, you know what I mean? Shout out Santi and everybody down there, you know what I mean? And yeah, man, I just stay busy, stay grinding, you know what I mean? And, you know, I'm getting to the point now where it's like, okay, you know, I need to pick one day out of the week where I just do nothing and just chill, you know what I mean? You know, I'm always with the family, but I'm always doing something. I don't even know how I balance it, and still, you know, make sure that I get home every day at a decent time to hang with the family. But hey, you know, God blessed me with all these talents, and like I tell my wife, you know, He blessed me with all these gifts and made me pretty decent at them. So like I gotta utilize them, and He'll make the time for me to spend with my family, and that's what He does. You know what I mean? I don't know if you're a believer in the higher power or not, but that's what I feel. You know, as long as I'm doing good, you know, being a community activist, you know, making sure that what I'm doing it will never negatively affect the community around me or the community that I'm involved with. That's key right there, and to always bring good vibe and positivity to that, and everything else will just fall into place. You know what I mean? Be a good father, good husband, good grandfather now, good friend. You know what I mean? And be a community activist, and that is, you know, being responsible for everything that goes on in your community, no matter what it is. You know what I mean? And I learned that from, you know, the people around me. So like I feel like now it's good to be that example and give that back to everybody, to find that balance. You know what I mean? But I think we all have a responsibility in some way to be active in our communities, and God will, you know, the universe, whatever, will just make it all fall into place. You know what I mean? So
I love it, man. I love it. I appreciate that breakdown.
Yeah, man. That's what I believe, but it seems to be the formula that works.
I like it, man. I'm going to try to get in more of that mindset myself.
Yeah.
That would be a great way to end the podcast, but that's not how I always finish them. So a big part of conversations with TMac is music. Another big part is food.
Okay.
I'm a pizza guy. I work at a pizzeria in town. I told you when I was living in Massachusetts, my family had some restaurants out there. So, you know, I was doing that. That's when I started DJing. What are some, you know, growing up, born and raised in Denver, right? You got to know where the good spots are, man. Give me number one, a good pizza spot.
Okay.
Some of your go-to spots. And then I got to know where's the best green chili at.
Oh man, okay. So some of my favorite spots, you know what I mean, and some most Denver cats will know about these spots. You know, if you want some really good greasy Mexican food, El Toro, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Out off of out in Commerce City, you know what I mean? Pizza, my favorite pizza. Oh man, that's so tough, dude. Because right now I love Cosmo's artichoke pizza. That's like my favorite right there. You know what I mean? So I'll say Cosmo's. Oh man, what else? Benny Blanco's, of course. I love that. You know, the lunch meal.
Classic spot that's been mentioned quite a few times on the program.
They need to get that food window. They used to have the food window that would open right up into, you know, the Snake Pit, which is now your mom's house. But back then when we were doing shows at the Snake Pit, they had the little window and you could order from the bar right there and get pizza. So they need to bring that back, man. What else? Green chili, the best green chili. Man, that's a tough one. Because the only green chili that I really, really like is like my wife's or my mom's, dude.
Hey, that's not a wrong answer either. Because when I asked Old Soul Era, he said the best food is from my mom's kitchen.
Exactly. You know, my wife, she kills it, man. Which is, I mean, I try to stay slim, dude. I can't. If I go to my mom's, I'm gonna eat good, and my wife, man, she just, you know, like this morning we had freaking, you know, ravioli and you know, French bread for breakfast. You know, just made right there this morning.
Cooking up an amazing meal.
Oh yeah, but like, you know, one of my favorites to eat, you know what I mean, out here, to be honest with you, is Old Spaghetti Factory's crab ravioli. That's like my top favorite thing that that's like my comfort food right there, man. So yeah.
So if you want to get to Konz's heart, you know where to bring him, what
crab
to get
ravioli.
Yeah. All right. Konz, I really appreciate you coming through today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Giving me some background on Denver hip hop history, dropping some knowledge on me, giving me some of your insight. You know, look into your mind, your process, how you do things. Anything else you want to leave the people with before you get out of here?
Oh man, just stay positive. Let's help everybody win. You know what I mean? We all can't be number one, but we need to find our number one and keep pushing it. Like I said, you know, stay active in your communities. Stay up to what's going on in your community. I mean, right now, you know, we're going through this wave of violence with the youth, and one thing that, you know, I want to put the focus on is we, as we get older, we become OGs. You know what I mean? I watched my OGs pass knowledge on to us. You know what I mean? And like, we need to do the same thing. Like, I feel there's a generation that's being lost right now, and people are caught up in other things. We need to focus on this new generation, bring positivity to the neighborhoods, bring positivity to the communities, and you know, let's be responsible for each other and accountable for each other, and you know, stay positive. Peace out, Denver. I love you. Love everybody out there doing, you know, music and being creative. Whether no matter what it is, stay creative, and do what you love and be happy. You know, hey.
Amen to that.
Right on, TMac. Thank you
for having
me, man. This was dope. This was amazing, man. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thanks, brother.